What makes a city smart? Or on the other hand, what does a dumb city look like? I've spent most of my research career trying to get an understanding of what the real African smart city looks and feels like. This is a story about how simple, everyday smart technologies can lead to action. It is also a story about stories. In 2017, I was invited to speak at a workshop in Calgary, Canada, on the African smart city. I found this to be a strange task, given the size and diversity of the continent. The central message conveyed was that the manifestation of digital technologies is intrinsically connected to people's livelihood strategies. African cities are generally dominated by informality, services are crumbling, and poverty is increasing. This has an impact on how technology is used. This is hardly surprising, but I nevertheless experienced some challenges to my presentation. My images of street vendors using mobile phones, billboards promoting ubiquitous connectivity, juxtaposed with immediate city surroundings, showing dilapidated road infrastructure, was an uncomfortable contrast to the smart city imaginary. Corporate displays of smart cities in Africa are almost creepy in their similarities. Tall, glass-clad skyscrapers with wide avenues and slick inhabitants glued to their mobile phones. They could be in Dubai, or Singapore, or Seoul. Regardless of what inspires them, they have very little to do with their real city in Africa or elsewhere. At the same event, a colleague remarked on how my hometown, Cape Town, had a mythical quality to it, a Shangri-La of sorts, beautiful, historically and geographically compelling, perching on the southern tip of Africa, and thus geographically remote enough to reinforce this fantasy. I was reminded of yet another compelling narrative, Cape Town as the Silicon Cape, the investment connection into Africa, as an airport billboard at Cape Town International Airport proclaims. It struck me that my research included so many aspirations, the smart city, the connected citizen, and of course innovation. I appear to peddle in fanciful ideas, but I believe it imperative to understand what this all means for people living and working in African cities. So this presentation is not about smart cities, and it sort of is. It disrupts many of the associations that surface when thinking about technology in African cities. These are stories about hope, about understanding how bottom-up action combines with technology to produce interesting outcomes. Here I focus on the activities of two civil society organizations in Cape Town that are shifting how policymakers are thinking about housing, health, and food. I look at how they use a range of digital and more traditional forms of activism and communication to influence public action. The first example is Indifuna Ukwazi, which is isiXhosa for Dare to Know. This is an organization of community organizers, lawyers, educators, storytellers, and researchers working together to tackle spatial injustice. I first started following NU during their Reclaim the City campaign in 2017. The aim of this campaign was to stop the city of Cape Town selling public land, an abandoned former school in Sea Point, to a private organization. This led to a court case on which I was also an expert witness, challenging the municipal and provincial government on their progress in making well-located land available for inclusionary housing. Through their use of social media, online cartoons, photography, street theatre, protest marches, and presentations to other interest groups, they told many stories of how difficult it is for poor people in Cape Town to live, work, and move around the city. I followed up with interviews in 2021 and probed how NU uses new and traditional media to expand support networks and to shift public opinion. How they story legal and technical knowledge through on-site theatre and Twitter serialization. I discovered how strategic they are in combining various media in developing an overall argument, a story arc, intended to challenge housing policy. I witnessed how they use confrontational visual techniques to evoke emotional responses and educate people on policy. I discovered how important it was for NU to build a digital archive that can live beyond current day issues. My second example builds on learning from the coronavirus pandemic, where I explore the sweet spot between data platforms, storytelling, and place, and how this influences how we understand community. Cape Town Together is an online network of self-organizing neighborhood-level community action networks, CANs, that emerged as a neighborhood-based response to COVID lockdowns. using Facebook, WhatsApp, and whatever media is preferred by neighborhood residents, communities were able to network and help each other. This included buying airtime, delivering groceries, or depending on what the unique needs of each neighborhood was. Some of these networks built on old anti-apartheid era street committee networks, using a combination of radio, digital platforms, and outreach to ensure people have access to food, for example. Others relied on WhatsApp and YouTube videos to start community gardens. In many cases, people who never thought of themselves as activists became central to neighborhood organizing. These diverse community networks were all as different as the neighborhoods they are in. These diverse community action networks were all as different as the neighborhoods they are in. One thing unified them, a set of values titled the Ways of Working Mandate that respect different community experiences, understanding that people's experiences are different and should be respected. Participants in each of these cans are encouraged to work at the speed of trust, allowing communities to gel and people's experiences to be understood before action is taken in the neighborhood. In short, allowing neighborhood stories to surface. In both examples, how information is represented and communicated is key to influencing policymakers. The use of video and infographics are combined with regular updates on WhatsApp and social media. I paid close attention to how the suite of available platforms and technologies are combined and used to connect and to inform. Here the notion of experiential knowledge, a qualitative engagement with the problems of the everyday, features in the work of social movements such as NU and Cape Town Together. The various techniques used to tell individual stories and build an overall story include various tools and technologies in accordance with community needs and contexts. So the smart city discussed here is one of home, identity, and collective sense-making through hybrid combinations of technologies and more traditional tools, where experience, place, and memory inform how technology is harnessed and appropriated. It is a smart city on its own terms. Thanks for listening.